This is the HAWKS POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Atlanta Hawks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, appreciate everybody for coming through and showing some love. Another episode of nothing other than the official Locked On Hawks POSTCAST with your boy, host Deshaun Tate, and I think everybody's just super excited talking about tonight's game, and one of the more impressive ones that we've seen not only from the Atlanta Hawks in a really long time. At least it feels like that's the vibe, that's the energy of it anyways, but even more so, especially because of the fact of, for obvious reasons, not only having Jonathan Kuminga, but doing so against the Washington Wizards, where me and Tanitra always talk so much about the Washington Wizards being much like the Charlotte Hornets and maybe one or two other teams, not many around the league, that feels like they always, ironically, coincidentally enough, have the Atlanta Hawks number. That wasn't the case on tonight. Big time, 119-98. What is that? 21 points. 21 blow past the sticks. That's what we call it where I'm from anyways. The official Locked On Hawks postcast, and man, it felt really good. Let's dive right on into it. Fantastic game. Great showing. I think one of the more impressive things about tonight's game is when you have instances where the Atlanta Hawks didn't necessarily shoot it well from the field, were outshot from the field 44 to 39%, also outshot from three 32% to 24%, and still able to come away with a blowout win. We know about the advantage that they had from a size advantage standpoint, but shot it well from the free throw line, 88%. And at the half, I think was probably the most impressive thing that I saw was just knocking down the freebies, calling the free space on the bingo card. 93% kind of set the tone for this game. And when you start talking about setting the tone for this game, you look no other place, than really how this game essentially kind of got started. The Atlanta Hawks kind of opened up the game with a 7-0 run and extend that to a 10-2 run where eventually a timeout had to be called. But opening the game with 5 consecutive turnovers was the Washington Wizards, 4 of those being Atlanta Hawks steals, 6 total in the first quarter for them. Six total, 5 in the first, and 6 in the first quarter, and then 5 in the second. 11 turnovers at the beginning of the half. I think that's just really what pushed the envelope, pushed the Atlanta Hawks over the top, and really showcased its defense. Yes, the offense, I think that the offense probably was more impressive from a fluidity standpoint, even more so from a very much in sync, free-flowing offense. I really felt like that the things that the Atlanta Hawks really needed to be careful of tonight, not that I had any real or major concerns about the Hawks in a loss on tonight, was the fact that they really needed to control the pace and just find some balance of slowing down who I call the young guns, the Washington Wizards, because we know that they were going to go out there and try and put up high volume perimeter shooting, go out there to let it fly. That was what the Atlanta Hawks really needed to presume and assume would be the case. And Washington didn't necessarily put up that many, 31 threes, but I felt like most of those were in the first half and then eventually towards the tail end where they wanted to make a comeback, if you will. But you start looking at also where I felt like they needed to be beware of Justin Champagnie, who is obviously a really good player. Now, let's be really transparent here. Was Champagnie going to be the guy that was going to lead their will on to a victory? Yes, we're talking about the team that, Washington Wizards team, essentially, that was on a, 33 games lost this season by double digits, 7 of those by 20-plus points, only 5 victories for them on the road. Was he going to be the one that was going to lead them into doing such things? No. He wasn't. But I thought that he could be a piece that could help assist in trying to keep things a little bit close. Maybe if the Hawks got out to a deep run and took their foot off of the gas, then Champagnie can assist them the way that he did, obviously, on the end of the first quarter on that buzzer beater. Can really provide some damage, maybe cut it close and maybe come back and maybe, made it a little bit more respectable at one point in time, get really close to about a 9, 11, 12-point deficit before the Atlanta Hawks blow the doors off of it. And Julian Champagnie didn't necessarily have particularly the greatest night in the world per se, but he is just essentially another piece to a team that's looking to crawl back and get some things started. 14 points for him, 5 for 8 from the field, 4 3-pointers against the Hawks, only missing 2 of those. But talk about guys that were out, and definitely nobody's going to have any sour grapes or hard feelings about not having Alexander Sarr, their number 2 pick in last year's draft, not having Trae Young, which I think that they did a phenomenal job with creating the tribute for him on tonight, and Anthony Davis. But I think the other part of what makes this whole thing so impressive for the Atlanta Hawks is the fact that they did so much of this without their guy, without their key guy. Forget about just Washington not having Trae Young or not having Alexander Sarr or not having Anthony Davis. The Atlanta Hawks, without its triple-double, without its 20-something and 10 and 9 every single night that you can kind of rely upon. And sometimes at least I can admittedly say that I feel like I don't know where this team would be sometimes without him, even though somebody like a Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who is averaging, has had double-figure scoring 55 times this season, second in the league, leading that category just behind Julius Randle, and a guy that, obviously Nickeil averaging 20 and 43% from the field, probably the most impressive, 89% free throw shooter entering the month of February so far in the month of February, only missing 1 shot from the charity stripe. So he definitely brings that contribution, but I think that it was all about the team effort on tonight. And that's where you got to give some credit definitely to the bench for the Atlanta Hawks. 74 of its 119 points coming off the bench. I think it's fantastic. And obviously on the next segment, we're going to kind of get into things and talk about who the player of the game is, which I feel like is pretty obvious, but you still had a big time win for the Atlanta Hawks. Not a great game, obviously, by Jalen Johnson, because he only played 6 minutes, but Onyeka Okongwu, who picks up a big part of the load in the front court that the Hawks would have been missing on tonight, because this is why it could have been so much closer, is because number one, just on the surface level, right? For starters, the Hawks don't typically play well at home. Number two, being against a team like a Washington Wizards team, who we already talked about, sometimes feels like that they have the Atlanta Hawks number. Number three, having the size advantage in the front court, right, where the Washington Wizards is a bit of a smaller team, if you will. But if you don't have Jalen Johnson, who's not just your best player on the team, but also the best front court player that you have to be able to offer, is not in the game. Onyeka Okongwu, who played 23 minutes, right? So not even a half of a game, but 10 points for him. Struggled from shooting, 4 for 17 from the field, 2 for 7 from 3. Definitely chipped in from a rebounds and assist standpoint, 10 and 7. But who else in the front court? I mean, Mohamed Gay gave you some solid contribution, but he's nothing to sneeze at or run home to tell mom about on the offensive side of the ball beyond his energy and his defense. Really not bringing you much from in the scoring department either. And as much as we always keep on talking about Zachary Risachet, 9 points, 4 for 11. No, he's not quite a front court player, but 0 for 5 from 3, not shooting it well either. Putting him in some spotty minutes where he's, between the 3 and the 4 position, especially the 4 when they try to go small. I'm really a believer that could have been an area or a department where the Hawks could have struggled, and that's where it could have become dangerous for this team. Give the Atlanta Hawks the credit that they deserve for being able to do such things. By the way, Jock Landale didn't have a fantastic game either. But give the Atlanta Hawks the credit that they deserved in the front court for being able to go out there and out rebound the Washington Wizards by 20, right? For being able to, go out there and outscore the Washington Wizards by 14 in the paint. I think that was significant to the win for the Atlanta Hawks on tonight. Of course, talk about the guards for the Atlanta Hawks being able to turn over the Wizards 20 times in the game. Big time, big time. I mean, when you start talking, I'm not even sure that the Atlanta Hawks has turned anybody over 20 times this season. In the event they have, I feel like it's a very small number of times that they've been able to do that. But give them credit because that's not just about playing the Wizards. The Wizards have been competitive in a lot of games this year. Like I could sit up there and read off a couple of the different things about how they've lost, 33 games by double digits and 7 of them by 20 plus points and all that. But there's been some games as of late where it looks like they're actively trying. And I know they got new tank rules and everything else in the NBA, but they've been definitely competing with some teams in of recent memory as well. So I think that's where you also credit them. But my take of the entire night, I think a big reason behind why this Atlanta Hawks team won this game is because you look at the second chance opportunities that they had. It's the ability to be able to offensively rebound the basketball the way that they were able to on tonight. 19-2 out rebounding on the offensive end. And everybody, if you pay attention to the show, unless you've been living under a rock, you hear me tell Tanisha all the time how much I really value the offensive rebounding side of things. And for them to be able to go out and do that in such dominant fashion the way that they did on tonight, I think you do nothing but just kind of tip your cap to them, show them the love that, essentially they deserve. And I mean, for, there to be an instance where you don't see the Atlanta Hawks playing that, like you sit back and you look at the box score and feel the energy of everything that was going on in State Farm Arena. Gratefully that we were able to come away with a win and add a number to the left side of the result column, especially and specifically at home at State Farm Arena. But when you consider the fact that they didn't play their A+ game and they were still able to beat Washington, another professional team, albeit no matter how you look at it, I think that actually does say something. We're going to get into some comments here in just a few, but not before we get ready to pay some bills and talk a little bit about who the player of the game was. I think it doesn't take an Ivy League degree to figure out exactly who that guy is. So we're going to talk about that here on the other side of the break in just a moment. Stay right there. This episode of the Locked On Hawks Postcast is brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is the job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping that the right candidate stumbles across your post and falls in your lap, so to speak. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching for more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. All the boxes, every single last one of them with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all the boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is the job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show, again, let me say it one more time. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions, of course, apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. This episode of the Locked On Hawks Postcast is brought to you by FanDuel. That's right. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals in live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience, the whole nine. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time for you to lock in. I love the futures this time of the year, whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title. It adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And now, not later, but now, not only can you pick cash, but it could also send you to the NBA Finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Back with you guys here just for a few more minutes before we put a bow on the show. Appreciate you guys for joining me. The Locked On Hawks Postcast, episode number 60. What better way to do things and to go out with a bang than for us to do so with talking about the player of the game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
How about these numbers, folks? Check this out. Off the bench, remind you, 27 points, 9 for 12 from the field, 3 for 4 from 3, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, only 2 turnovers. Had some assists in there, by the way, about 4 of those. 2 steals. Jonathan Kuminga, our player of the game. Fantastic job. I mean, this is right up there with, I can get kind of used to this a little bit if I'm just being honest. I mean, we just, about 2 weeks ago, if that long, maybe 2.5 weeks ago, saw one of the better season debuts from Jock Landale, who, who's averaging 11, 5, 58%, 54% from 3, but had one of his better games that I think I've probably ever seen him. Sometimes it takes a guy to put on an Atlanta Hawks uniform for the very first time. And, one of the things that I really kind of anticipated that we would see from Jonathan Kuminga, if I'm just really being transparent, is I would expect to see some moments, right? Some flashes, the elite athleticism where we saw him get out on the break and, be able to showcase run and jump abilities, which is a lot of what we saw during his time in Golden State, a guy averaging 12 points a game, 6 rebounds and 45% from the field. A lot of that being downhill motion, just being able to get some of those workhorse or athleticism baskets. I think we saw a little bit more than that on tonight, and the ability to be able to shoot the basketball as well. Partially a big part of behind why I believe that they wanted to pick up Jonathan Kuminga, because it not only kind of re-energizes or revitalizes or replenishes a young player with a lot of potential, a high upside still, maybe didn't get a chance to make his home at Golden State everything that he wanted it to be before his departure, but that was still a possibility here in Atlanta. And I think that that's exactly what you're getting, what you're going to get. Is he going to look like this version of Jonathan Kuminga every single night? I certainly hope so. Will that happen? Probably not. But I think that it's more likely to happen than it is not to happen. When Jock Landale had his debut game, had a really, 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 really good feeling that's probably not the version, more than likely, of what we're going to see from him. But I think that we are more, inept to see this type of version of Jonathan Kuminga moving forward. Not to say that he won't have games where there's going to be mistakes and there's going to be some growing pains. He's still only 23 years old, but the future is bright in the way that they're constructing this team and building this team up. His ability to be able to shoot the basketball just adds to all the other guys that can do so as well. Jalen Johnson, CJ McCollum, who got in the starting lineup on tonight in place of Zachary Reese-Shea, who can also hit the three, maybe not as consistent as we like, along with Dyson Daniels being in that conversation as well. But besides him, I mean, you start factoring in the kill Alexander Walker, who can hit the three. Kispert is a sniper. That's just what he does. Every now and then, Muhammad Gay, which you don't really anticipate swinging him the ball so he could do such things, but he can even hit a shot, I think, as well. We've seen the ability for him to be able to shoot it as well. Jock Landale is one of those guys, and we already know about the guards between Vincent and Buddy Hield and guys like Keaton Wallace and things like that. So there's not many guys on this team that cannot shoot the basketball. Now, whether it's at a high clip or not, high volume, high octane offense, high volume shooting, things like that, I think is a totally different conversation. But nonetheless, adding Jonathan Kuminga to that, I think is something that can give the Atlanta Hawks hope, positivity, and some optimism that they're going in the right direction. If not nothing else, we were able to see that here on tonight. And then the other thing is, I think it was just great to be able to see him do what he did in a very short span of time, coming off the bench and in the first quarter, getting his first basket on a breakaway dunk with 4 minutes and 3 seconds left on a 22-13 lead. I thought was great. Kind of got things going. You see the big smile on his face. He's trusting the work and trusting the process. Plus 16 for Jonathan Kuminga on tonight for the Atlanta Hawks on tonight when he's on the floor. So I thought that was fantastic as well. And he just looked like he was having fun. He looked like he was a great time. I mean, we've all kind of one way or another either played basketball or played sports. And when you're being coached up in your youth, they always tell you one of the things you want to focus on the most. Of course, everybody wants to win, but to go out there and have fun and enjoy what you're doing. And every time that you clock in, do the work, clock out, get paid, you want to have fun doing it. And I think that box was checked on tonight. 18 points in the third quarter alone, 5 for 5 shooting, didn't miss a single shot. I thought was fantastic. And of course, at the end of the first quarter with 46 seconds left, 33-15, 7 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal for Jonathan Kuminga. So listen, I think that the future is bright. Still got some things to work on. I think the next piece that we got to add on to for this team, now that I feel like we have a decent feeling that Jonathan Kuminga will be the starting small forward after he gets acclimated to the way that this team is ran and the system and the scheme and all that good stuff, is he'll be taking the spot probably of Zachary Reese-Shea, I would imagine. Give him some opportunity to get stronger and come along and develop and get established a little bit more and figure out what they're going to do from that standpoint. And don't know if they're going to continue bringing CJ McCollum off the bench or in the starting lineup, which I don't think either one of those things is a bad idea, especially when you need the spark off the bench that you need. So we'll leave that right there and go ahead and put a bow on things. Thank you guys so much for joining in. I see we had a lot of traffic and a lot of people commenting. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get to everybody. Very tight show, but I'll tell you what you can do. You can go right on over there to what's coming up next. It's the Locked On Hawks podcast with my dude, Brad Rowland. Does a fantastic job, a little bit more fan interaction than we have here, but certainly I hope you guys enjoyed the post game, the official Atlanta Hawks postcast. And thank you guys for joining me. We'll be right back here. I guess the same team, right? The Washington Wizards. 48 hours from now, please come back. We'll have Tanisha back at that time, and we'll be looking forward to having some more fun and talking a little bit more about hopefully, fingers crossed, adding another number to the left side of the result column against the Washington Wizards yet again. Talk to you guys soon, and thanks for tuning in.